Good morning, students. I am making an attempt at giving you some video instructions for our Canvas module, as some of you have had questions or many of you haven't really submitted work yet. I'm wondering if you're getting stuck in knowing how to do things. So first things first, now that we are online learning for the next month, I want you to make sure that when you come into Canvas, you're paying attention to recent announcements, where I will try to post things that will be helpful for the whole class. The one to pay attention to that I've had for this first module is your what to do day by day schedule. So this goes through all of the assignments in total and then breaks it down day by day what you should be turning in. I am trying to kind of stay on top of getting things created as they are due, and so then I can send out email missing assignment slips to you to let you know if something should have been turned in and hasn't been. But, you know, I understand that we are all adapting to these new exciting things happening with our education this year. And so I'm willing to be flexible. I understand you may be sharing devices. Those are just reminders for you about kind of what's expected, and make sure that it's happening as you can get to it. So let's go through the assignments for this first little block of time that we're online learning. After looking at some of your survey responses, I am going to go ahead and make sure that I'm posting day by day next week in your modules instead of giving it to you all at once. My thought initially was to make sure that you had some flexibility and kind of knew everything that was expected, so that when you had time on your devices or however you're working out your family time, you could move ahead, catch up, whatever was available to you. But I will, after spring break, post day by day. It sounds like that's a little overwhelming for some of you to have everything at your fingertips, and so I will try to break that up so it feels a little bit more manageable for you. On the home screen, you'll see that I have put a discussion board. So if you're having questions, you can post here and your fellow students can answer you as well as I can answer you. Also, on that home page, you'll see that there is a learning survey. Some of you have taken this. I've got maybe about half of you have taken it so far. I just want to know how this new online system is working for you so I can make an adjustment as needed. Mrs. Jensen is sending out some library announcements day by day, so you can check those out here. She's been doing some book talk videos and some fun things to let you know how you can continue to get books. We have put in a big Sora order, so there are a lot more titles available on Sora. You'll want to jump into that and check those out soon while they're there before they get snatched up. So as far as this module's work goes, first off, on your independent reading page, remember that you have 700 points required for the trimester, and there will be a book talk each month. So your March book talk choices are here. Mrs. Jensen's messages about how to use Sora and how to check out books are here, as well as a place for you to load your independent reading log and update that. So you can submit your book talk here, as well as you know, if you're having trouble getting something into Canvas, you can always email it to me as an option. Next, you have your Word of the Week pages. I think those have been the assignments that have been most successfully submitted by students. You'll just open up the chart. Mrs. Craner recorded some videos going through the Word of the Week for this week and last week, so you can fill those in and submit them. I did include a Word of the Week study page so that you can continue to practice and prep on all of those academic words. I have graded all of your Word of the Week quizzes and see that I have quite a few of you that haven't actually submitted a quiz. So you're going to see those coming into your grade book with grades and missing marks. So some of you are going to need to either take or retake your Word of the Week quiz. The thing that I've been getting the most questions about is probably these two assignments on active and passive voice. So first is just understanding what active voice is versus passive voice. Essentially, it's about what the subject of the sentence is, and it changes where the emphasis of the sentence is placed. In active voice, it's the subject that is doing the action of the sentence. So it puts the emphasis on that subject of the sentence. Passive voice is where something is being done to the subject. So check out the two examples here. We have the man must have eaten 5 hamburgers. Emphasis here is on the man and what he's doing, he's eating. In passive voice, 5 hamburgers must have been eaten by the man. Here the emphasis is on the hamburgers instead. So it's just about how the sentence is ordered, and it changes where the emphasis is placed. You'll have a chance to practice identifying active voice versus passive voice in No Red Ink. If you haven't been added to the class already, you'll need to come here to join the class. The class code is LeanFaucet34, which is weird, but it's just what they assigned us. You also can watch a video here that goes through and explains active and passive voice with some examples. It's kind of a little bit childish, the video is, but I think it does a really good job of explaining what it is and how it works in a sentence. You'll do some more practice in No Red Ink. So this is just kind of learning what active voice is, what passive voice is. After you've done that, you'll move on to look at active and passive voice in Unbroken. One of the things that we're going to do as we move forward in Unbroken is thinking about how Lauren Hillenbrand tells the story of Louis. She's really a very good storyteller, and we'll look at some of the techniques that she uses as she tells the story. So one thing that we're looking at is the voice that she uses. So when you're reading in Unbroken, I've set up an assignment for you that's pulled out some sentences from the book. I'll let this load. So the first thing is to look at the sentence and determine if it's active or passive voice. And then, and of course, because I'm trying to show you, it's not loading. Let's try this again. Maybe it's because I'm not actually in my Google account. My daughter's been sharing my laptop with me. I'm sure some of you are having those same fun things at your house. So when you look at the sentence, as a general rule, if it's an active voice, it's going to emphasize the actor or the subject of the sentence. So check out number 4. For 3 days, the Japanese bombed and strafed the atoll, or atoll, I think is how you pronounce that. So here, the Japanese is the subject, and they are the ones doing the bombing. This is an active voice sentence. By identifying the Japanese here as the subject of the sentence, it puts emphasis on they are the ones doing the bombing. So Hillenbrand kind of does a good job as far as setting up the Japanese as the villain of Louis' story, right? Especially you'll see as he reaches the POW camp in Japan, his main antagonists are the Japanese that are running the camp. So by putting this in active voice, the emphasis is on it's the Japanese doing this. On the other hand, if you look at example number 1 that I filled out for you, then they were discovered by the railroad detective who forced them to jump from the moving train at gunpoint. Discovered is the verb here. Who is the person that does the discovering? Well, it's really the railroad detective. So this is in passive voice. They were discovered. So it puts emphasis on the action of the sentence rather than the person doing the action, right? Because we don't really care much about the railroad detective. We care about what's happening to Louis. So in passive voice, it puts the emphasis on the verb of the sentence. What's happening to Louis? He's discovered. He has to jump from the train. So as you're looking through these sentences, you're just thinking about what voice is Hillenbrand using and why does it matter? What's the emphasis of the sentence? All right, moving on through assignments. After active and passive voice, you have your writing assignments. So we've got a little vocab, a little grammar, and then writing. You have both an outline and your 2 to 3 paragraphs to write. So for your informative outline, when you open it, just like the ones we've done in class, you are using 2 different texts. When you can open up with this little magnifying glass, or you can hit this Microsoft Word version. I found for some reason that Google Doc links are not working well in Canvas right now. Somehow the permissions are not set up, even though on my end I'm showing that anyone with a link can view. I've been getting all these requests for permission to access. So the Microsoft Word version might be the best way to go, or you can even just hit this magnifying glass and it will open up right in Canvas. There is an audio recording of the articles that Mrs. Baird prepared, and then here you are creating an outline. So here's what your outline looks like. It's just your topic sentence, right, your thesis statement. So the overall main idea, how did internment in the camps affect Japanese Americans during World War II? That's the prompt you're restating for your thesis. You're coming up with a couple of ideas about how they were affected and 2 pieces of evidence to support those ideas. So the outlining process should be fairly straightforward. It's something we've been practicing a lot lately, but this time it's just a 2 to 3 paragraph and it's informational instead of argumentative. So there's no counterclaim. You're just giving your main idea and giving a couple of supporting ideas underneath it. Just make sure that your overall idea and these 2 supporting ideas all go together. That's probably been the biggest thing that I've seen as I've graded the ones that have come in. Next, you'll take that outline and you'll turn it into your 2 to 3 paragraphs. Oh, I did put a page here with the text just because those links didn't seem to be working, so it's posted here as well. Oh, maybe I can't hit next with my recording going. Sorry, I know this video is getting long and probably kind of boring, but we're going to finish out through all these assignments. So next is your 2 to 3 paragraphs that you're writing. So the question is, how did internment in the camps affect Japanese Americans during World War II? As you create this 2 to 3 paragraph essay, I want you to remember that the thesis sentence in your outline is not a paragraph. You want to make that a full introduction. So you want to give some background information about how the Japanese came to be in internment camps, and then give your thesis statement about how that affected them. Then make sure that you have elaborated on the quotes in your body paragraphs. So you are fleshing out your outline into full paragraphs. Then the last assignment that you have through the end of this week is reading in Unbroken, chapters 14 through 17. This is part 3. We read these 2 chapters in class before the dismissal, and then you have 4 more chapters to read on your own. The chapters are pretty brief, and I have included some audio recordings of the chapters if you want to listen to those as you read along. And then there are some notes. So there are a few vocabulary words for you to define that go with your reading, and there are a couple of questions for you to answer. So first, kind of looking at the idea that Louis is resilient and optimistic. That Hillenbrand said at the beginning of the book that it was his resilient optimism that would define him. So think about how he is either resilient or optimistic during this experience on the raft. Make sure you can include 3 examples. And then during Louis' ordeal of being lost at sea, Hillenbrand writes of several occasions in which he experiences the presence of God. What are these experiences like? How does he experience God in each of them? The movie that we watched in class really did an interesting job of kind of focusing on this religious aspect of Louis' experience. And you'll notice that that comes to be a bigger and bigger part in the book, particularly toward the end, as Louis tells his own story. So we want to kind of take note of how those experiences are shaping Louis in this ordeal. And then lastly, here is the vocabulary, and I did put the page numbers where you find those. I want you to define them based on the context, the words around that word in the book itself. How do you figure out what it means? So not just looking up in a dictionary, but figuring out what the word means in the reading. Okay, I know that was a lot. Hopefully that is helpful to you as you're moving through these assignments. Please contact me via email or through the Canvas inbox if you have specific questions for me. I'd love to chat with you and answer your questions, and I'm available every day. So do ask.